entrepreneur and interim manager in Europe and the CIS region. So she joined the German Association of Women Engineers as a volunteer, and she served as a board member, and now she's also the founding chair of the regional network INWES Europe, and has been elected as a treasurer of INWES. So she will give you a nice welcome speech. Thank you, Silvia.
Thank you, Jenny. I'm really honored to chair this meeting. It's the second in a row of our project, and it should highlight the policies around women in STEM and research in this community. We had as a first workshop with the communication around, and we have the honor to welcome again Colette Uyop, who will give us a great overview on the policies which had been working, which would be a good benchmark for all those European-wide to see what we can do there. We will have an overview on the Greece situation with a bit of different highlights. I hope that Betty will be able to come up for the meeting later on. And we are very excited to have a panel on Ukraine, with all the aspects of what happened in the past for a country which had not been so much in the focus of European views, but now has come with the unfortunate crisis of a war situation, and how that affects science community, and specifically the women in science, and what we can do to improve their specific situation, and how to get out of such a rift to the community, and what to do for them will be the highlight of the last panel. So all the 5 panelists are here and excited to see the resonance in the community. So I would then think that we can directly go into the next introductions. I don't know if Georgia has been able to join now.
Yes, she is.
Yes, hello.
Great. Thank you.
So we just had a little highlight of the agenda. Here are some timings, 30 minutes for Professor Colette, and then we will have Helen from the Daphne Jackson Trust, and Betty on Greece, and then the panel, and then a discussion if you have any questions, and we aim to finish at about 11. So let me introduce Professor Georgia Kremida, professor at the School of Engineering at the University of Warwick. She's co-chair of Global Research Priorities Sustainable Cities, co-chair of Institutional Athena Swan, STEM Grand Challenges Education Lead, and now she was elected board director and vice president conferences at INWES. So Georgia, if you want to.
Thank you so much. Yes, thank you. I will share my screen. Just give me a second. Many thanks, Jenny, for the introduction, and good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for having me here today. It is the second European webinar, and we are all looking forward to hearing on the fantastic experiences that the speakers have to share today with us. Before I go a little bit forward, I would like to thank very much the organizers of this webinar, so Sylvia, Belen, and Jenny, of course, who are delivering this webinar today for us. Thank you so much, everyone. And a very big thank you also to our distinguished speakers, Colette, Helen, Betty, Lydia, Natalia, Daria, Tatiana, and Alexandra. Thank you so much for being here on this webinar. My role today is really to speak a little bit about INWES for those who are new to INWES. So INWES is a global network of organizations bringing together women in STEM. We are listing a number of members, organizational members, corporate members, university members, and individual members. And altogether, we are representing something about 250,000 women from over 40 countries worldwide. The mission of INWES is really to build a better future worldwide through full and effective participation of women and girls in all aspects of STEM. And we are really grateful to the amazing work that our members are doing all over the world. This year, INWES is celebrating its 20th anniversary. The organization was established in 2002. It was in this year that it was approved by the delegated INWES 12 in Canada. And since then, it is a formal organization. INWES has expanded in the years that followed on a global scale, has established regional networks, and has initiated a number of various projects that bring us together to the mission that we are having of fulfilling, the aim, the aspiration of building a better future worldwide for full participation of women and girls in all aspects of STEM. Within INWES, INWES is the flagship event that we are organizing at international level every 3-4 years since 1964. We have a number of conferences which have taken place in Europe, I need to say. So INWES 2, INWES 3, INWES 4, INWES 5, INWES 9, INWES 10, INWES 14, and INWES 18, the most recent one, were all held in the European continent. INWES 18 was held last year at the University of Warwick, and it was the first virtual conference that we delivered due to COVID circumstances. INWES 19 is the next conference that is happening next year in September 2023 in New Zealand. It is going to be a hybrid event, and we are looking forward to welcoming all of you in this event. On this map, you can see the locations, the countries where the various events of INWES have been delivered in the since establishment. With red, you see INWES conferences before the establishment. With blue, you see the conferences after 2002, and in green you see the regional conferences that INWES has delivered. So the regional conferences are happening in a year where INWES is not running, and they are purposed to be delivered in regions where networks do not exist at the moment, if possible. Here on this screen, you can see the member countries of INWES. INWES is listing 4 regional networks. The first network that was developed was the APNN one, established in 2011. Then we had the African Regional Network being established in 2014. And the most recent one is the Middle East and North Africa network being established in 2018. Currently, there is a Latin America, I would say, network being developed. You can see the member countries of the INWES Europe network. If you believe that your country should be represented and you would like to participate and be a member of INWES and INWES Europe, please liaise with ourselves to find out how this can happen. And in the next slides, a number of interesting documents and photos from past events. So this is from INWES 2, this is from INWES 3, this is, INWES 4 in Poland in 1975, proceedings of the various conferences, proceedings and also relevant publicity from the INWES 5 in France, INWES 9 in the UK in 1991, INWES 10 in Hungary in 1996, INWES 14 in France in 2008, and the most recent one in the UK last year. And as I said previously, the next one is happening in New Zealand in September 2023. So please keep that in your calendars, and we would be very happy to see you there physically or virtually. And some photos here from the constitutional meeting of INWES Europe. Sylvia has been instrumental in setting up this network, and she's now the chair of it. So many thanks to Sylvia and all other members and colleagues who are contributing to this network. The INWES objectives, it is to become an influential voice on STEM issues for the benefits of women and society, increase the presence of women in mainstream STEM decision-making bodies, promote exchange of information and best practices for outreach and professional development, provide opportunities for networking worldwide, support a range of global and regional projects, and expand the opportunities for education and careers in STEM. On this slide, you can see the various projects that we are running at the moment for the year 2022. In red highlight, it is the project that we are discussing also today with this webinar. It is the last of a series of webinars that we have run within the project Enhancing Research Culture. And it is also associated to the 20-year anniversary celebration, which is going to happen on the 20th of July. So please also add this one in your calendar, and we would be very happy to see you in the big celebration of the 20 years of amazing achievements that INWES has delivered. I need to say here a very big thank you to everyone, the speakers, the organizers, and INWES, of course, for greatly supporting the project and this webinar. I think if after the end of this webinar and collectively through the webinars that we delivered within the project, we identify that probably the progress has been slower than expected in the last 20 years, or that there are more things that we need to be doing, I think that's a good message to be passed forward rather than, disappoint us, because we need to continue doing what we are doing so far, this amazing participation from women and girls in science and engineering. So that is all, I think, from myself. Many thanks, and looking forward to seeing you all on the 20th of July for the celebration of 20 years of INWES. Thank you.
Thank you so much for this lovely presentation, Georgia, showing the amazing work that INWES is doing. So let me share my slides again now. So I am very lucky to be the project researcher in this project. So I will now introduce you to the main aims of it. I'm assistant professor at the physics department at the University of Warwick, where the project is based. So the project is called Reimagining a STEM Research Culture, Lessons Learned from 20 Years of Evolution for Inclusive Representation in Science and Engineering. And as we said, it's a collaboration between the University of Warwick through the PI, Professor Georgia Femida, and INWES. And our aim is to basically bring people together and to create a collaboration and have a teamwork to try and do something for increasing inclusion and diversity in STEM. So our aim is to share experiences, mindsets, attitudes, and insights that we all have, and they are all different and based on our experience. And as said, we organized a series of 10 webinars, 2 per region. This is the last one. The project has been running since March, and it will end in July with the final webinar to celebrate the 20th anniversary of INWES. And in this project, we have collated a series of resources. So one thing I would like to ask is if you have any resource to share, any policies, initiatives, projects and interventions that are currently in place in your country. We would be glad to include them in our webpage, which will be shared in the chat as well. And so now let me introduce you to, I think, our first speaker, which is the Emerita Professor Colette Guillopin. We are really honored to have you here for the second time, because she was also a speaker at the first webinar that we held. And we really loved, she's a mathematician, so we really loved her way of showing the data, and it was very inspiring the first time, and I'm sure it will be the same this time. So Colette has been a researcher and a teacher, and she's been a successful president of the French Association of Femmes et Mathématiques, Women and Mathematics, and Feminine Sciences, so Women in Science. And she contributed to the creation of the Association Standing Conference of Officers for Equality and Diversity in Higher Education and Research Institutions, which today has members of more than 8 institutions of higher education in France. She's based at the Université Paris Créteil. She's vice president of the INWES. She's member of the board of administration of the European Platform of Women Scientists, and she's promoted girls and women in science, so she's very devoted to this project. So sorry, I will stop sharing my slides. Thank you so much, Colette. The floor is yours.
Very much. Thank you very much. What is there? Okay. Well, thank you very much. It's really a pleasure to be with you today. Really. So I'm going to talk about what I tried to get from that report, She Figures. And there had been since 2000, I would say, about 20 years of these reports. They come out every 2 or 3 years. And a lot of data, and it's very complicated because, you know, in 20 years, they changed the way they report the things, which is normal. So in any case, I'm going to show you a little bit of something. And I'm going to use the examples of France, Germany, Portugal, Switzerland, which I know a little bit more, France especially, and I know a little bit about Germany, Portugal, and Switzerland. Next one, please. EPWS, seems that part of it is okay. Maybe the next one. Okay, thank you very much. So it's been created under the auspices of European Union. And well, they said there's a problem for women scientists, you should do something. So they gave us really a large grant to start EPWS in 2001. And so the importance of networking, need for an association platform. And so we're discussing, you know, gender balance in research policy and from different perspectives, research by, for, and about women. So next one, please. Okay, so this is a network is not as big as the one, as large as the one for INWES, it's just Europe. it represents about 12,000 women scientists in Europe, all fields, all statues, and 100 networks of women scientists from 40 countries. And for example, what do we do? We had on May 8th, we had an EPWS statement in support of Ukrainian women in science. And we expressed our solidarity towards the Ukrainian Scientific Committee, and especially Ukrainian women in science. And what we have a website, epws.org, and you could see, well, the announcement for jobs, and we have regular portraits, the portrait of the month of a women scientist or of a research policymaker. There's a lot to explore in that website. Next one. Well, so okay, could you just do the whole list, please? Because you know it was going to be like that. So, I'm just commenting a little bit about SHE figures 2021. So you could see, I mean, it's easy to get. It's a very large, heavy report, and you have everything on web. So you could see the pool of cadre talents, participation in science and technology occupations, the labor market participation as researchers, working conditions of researchers. So it's fairly new, actually. There's something about precarity, career advancement and participation in decision-making, and research and innovation output. The next one, please. Okay, so typical academic careers, 1999, 2016 in STEM. So this one is in the 2018 report. And actually, you could see there's no change, really hardly any changes. So these are data for all researchers, all disciplines, students, from students to senior researchers, and there's just not very much of a difference. So you may wonder, well, everything we do, does it really serve? Does it do anything? You know, all the activities, a few of ours are leading, and does it really serve anything? The next one, please. Sylvia? Oh, okay, thank you. So this is in STEM and the same. Okay, Caesar pattern still valid. So I showed it between 2015 and 2018. The share of women is even smaller among bachelor's and master's students and graduates, and across all grades of academic staff. So you could see nothing changes. This is in STEM, because we're talking about STEM here. So next one, please.
Sorry for that one. It just seems the presentation does not forward.
Oh.
Yeah, no.
Okay, thank you. So I'm just giving here a few data which are collected from different reports, SHE figures. So we start in 2000 and 2013, 2015, 2018. Okay. So you could see actually the data, I mean, for France, for example, 2000, there was 32% of women in research, and then it just got down to 26. But I just suppose it's just because it's not reported the same way, because there was not a dramatic decrease between 2000 and 2013. But then you could see it's increasing, 26%, 35%, 40%. And you could see that in all countries, which I'm going to show. Germany, Portugal, Switzerland, it's increasing. Portugal it's been fairly high, and now it's decreasing, actually, 61% to 50%. And percentage of women in research. And the second table is about the glass ceiling index. So in 2000, the glass ceiling index was not calculated. So what I just show is a percentage of women among scientific boards in academia. So for France, it was 23%, Germany 11%, Portugal almost 70%, almost 67%. And well, some data are unavailable, and it's getting better. You know, for the availability is getting better when times go on. And then for the 2013, 2016, 2018, this is a glass ceiling index, which is calculated in those reports. So it read when it gets worse, you know. One, it's just that when the glass ceiling index is 1, means that this is equality between women and men. So you could see there's still a fairly long way to go. And there are differences, you know. In Germany, maybe there's some kind of a discrepancy in 2016 because it just goes back to the same number as in 2013. And Switzerland seems to be going worse. And actually in the mean value, you could see the mean value for all Europe, 28 states, is getting, it's been getting better in 2016, 2018 is getting worse. Okay, thank you. Next one, please. Okay. So I'm talking about France, which I'm French, so I've been exploring the situation of France for many years. What I could say, it was a continuous fight for gender equality in the professional sector since the 80s. I mean, I'm talking really a fight because we're just, you know, trying to do things all the time. I just going backwards, going forward. It's really a fight. In the society, the whole society, there are actions against sexism, for actions for parity in politics, and more recently against street harassment. And it's for actions for a normal life, independently of your sex or gender. In school and universities, I'm putting it really short. It's against, there has been actions against sexual harassment, for salary equality, even in a public sector, you know, civil servant, there's no salary equality. And in the private sector, there have been actions for equality in managing positions and also in salary equality. There's still a really big difference between men and women. And what we have in France is a continuous process of laws, discussing and voting. So it started even before that, you know, but really in the modern times, I would say, 1946, the preamble of the Constitution, which institutes the equality between sexes, men and women. 1983, there was a Rudy law. There was a first women minister for equality of women and men. So there was a law for professional and gender equality. Then in 2001, so the Denison law, no more legitimate reason for discriminating. Equal value job means the same salary. And it started a bit earlier in 72, but really 2001, you know, it's when Europe said, well, okay, you started to have laws and encouraging states to say you have to work on equality between men and women. It was at 2011, 2013, 2017, 2021. I mean, we have laws all the time, and it's just making maybe some progress. So important progress. I mean, there was a law for higher education and research. There were many different actions. Universities have to put in action. They really have to put them. And 2011, that was the quotas for boards of administration. In 2000, we had the boards in politics and the quotas in politics. And now it's the quotas in boards of administrations. And we're still waiting for quotas in science. I'm going to say a few words about that later. The next one, please. Okay, the results now. So a few people are working very hard to make things change in the good direction. So, for example, well, there was an institution of a High Council for Equality between men and women, was established in 2013. So in France, you could see that different governments from the left, from the right, they have different actions. So 2013, there was a left government. A few progress, but there are contradictory directions. Equality versus excellence. So we need to change the whole society, do we? Don't we? We need to change the excellence criteria, don't we? And there are some backlash, very strong, could be really, really strong, you know, like people are getting on the streets and especially now too with new media, it just could be really, really bad. In academia, what I can say that the situation is fairly favorable. There are daycare services, so they're not enough. The tradition of working mothers in the 70s, free scholar system starting at age 3, civil servant positions after doctoral studies, and 0, 1, or a few postdoctoral studies. So, I mean, women can have their babies if they get a permanent positions, but you know, there are a lot of precarity too. If they get a permanent position, which is still possible, they can have their babies in a really safe environment if they want to have babies. Mission for gender equality in all institutions, and often, so it's compulsory, but it is often extra work for the person in charge. Like, you know, you could do that when you don't have anything else to do. No money, no recognition, and as a consequence, burnout and people leaving. So it's very unstable. I mean, if you don't give any money, it's very unstable. And it is compulsory to establish some kind of a bureau or service for preventing sexual harassment and dealing with such cases of sexual harassment, because there are numbers. This is very strange, actually, to see how many cases there are, and especially, I mean, between professors and students, but a lot too between students themselves. So next one, please. I'm going to talk about Germany, Portugal, Switzerland, and I would like to dedicate what's next to Claudine Herman. She was a former EPWS president, and she died last year from cancer. Germany, so I want to just give a few points. So the history of Germany, there's a Bismarck and the 3K, Kinderküche Kirche, Children Kitchen Church. Well, the date 871, there's a few typos, 871, okay, 1918. And so there was a fairly, you know, solid situation here. It's not very good for women. And the Third Reich context, actually, the Nazis, you know, took back this 3K dogma between 1933, 1945. And specific to Germany is the way science works. Their studies are fairly slow until the Doktorarbeit, and there's a compulsory geographical mobility until the habilitation. So it's very, very difficult to get real jobs, you know, which are not precarious. Very often people have to, you know, scholars have to go to a foreign country after their doctoral thesis, or for postdoctoral, yes, but even for some kind of a semi-permanent or permanent jobs. The next one, please. The situation of women. So there are different historical situations in West Germany and East Germany. So there was something very difficult for Germany to deal with. And you could still see differences if you go to West Germany. I mean, the former West Germany and the former East Germany, the positions are universities are kind of a little bit somewhat different. And for families with children, still fairly difficult. Very few daycare centers. Kindergarten, elementary school teaching is only in the morning. So it's changing, I believe, but there's a dilemma between family and career. And more recently, there's been some kind of a backlash, Ravensmutter, very low fertility rate. Ravensmutter, sorry, I forgot to translate it in English, but maybe somebody could do it. Angela Merkel did take some laws about parental leave and establish more beds in daycare. And there have been a fairly violent criticism of the politics of, Gaber's machine. Because they are very good mothers. Okay, thanks, Sylvia. Okay. So it's co-mothers, something like that. Ravensmutter, co-mothers. So the next one, please. So measures for women in science. What I know of, there had been chairs for women scientists. So now there's 20% of women in academia in 2018 versus 20% in 2001. Senior staff in 2001 is 8% of women. It's very low. So, I mean, if I'd like to compare Germany, and I'm going to say a few words about Switzerland too, is that in France there had been, political actions, but no really spending money on actions. So as a result, the rating of France is it's about the same. It's improving a little bit, but not. I mean, the rating among European countries is tending to get down and down, further down. So as countries like Germany or Switzerland, which are very far behind, are getting better because they're putting money in the actions. I would like to mention the Center for Excellence of Women in Science. So they develop, transfer knowledge, and offer an evidence base on topics related to gender inequalities and equality policies, and including intersections of inequalities in science and research. And I would like to mention the Equality Label. In 10 years, 100 enterprises have been laureates, private and public sectors. And which I didn't mention, in France, there's no label, but there's kind of something very similar of a label. There's a grid, and you have to obey. You get fined if you're not high enough in the grid for equality. So it's changing little by little. The next one, please. Portugal. Very few daycare centers for children, and mothers are getting help from the family. 43% of women in academia in 2018, 2000. But women are not satisfied by their fairly steady careers. The next one, please. So this is, this little pictures, was made up for Amonet, the Association for Science Women in Portugal, and women and men start at the same place, but, the steps are just impossible for women. Thank you. So next one, please. Switzerland, no permanent position. until you're a senior. So it's very similar to what's happening in Germany. And well, Switzerland is a much smaller country, so there are not that many universities. In the 80s, very low percentage of women professors, establishment of chairs for women, very few chairs, not that many. Percentage of women scientists holding positions has improved slightly. I was trying to get numbers for women in mathematics and I forgot. Okay, I mean, it's just really not very many women in any case. So less than 10%. I mean, it's very low. Sorry about that. The next one, please. And here, actually, I just left these diagrams. I'm not going to comment them. I'm just showing you what there is in that report. So the proportion of women among doctoral graduates has increased, moving the pool of doctoral graduates closer to gender parity. This is all disciplines. Next one, please. There's a number of those. I'm going to go fast. Percentage of women researchers in the private sectors, percentage of women in higher education. I already mentioned that. Next one, please. Next one. Glass ceiling index. I already mentioned that. Next one, please. And I would like to say that this is the interactive report. So next one, please. And there's an additional, I would like to mention, there's an additional she figures this year, this is new this year, about policy briefs on emerging and ongoing policy priorities. So you could see a number of states which are mentioned and studied, and it's a very interesting work. The next one, please. Next one, just do it fast, please. Thank you. So as a conclusion, could you put a whole thing? That's amazing. Thank you very much. To overcome the gender equality, 3 strategic approaches have to be taken in Europe: fix the numbers, fix the institutions, and fix the knowledge, gender innovations. So I would like to mention, for example, voices. This is a cost action, making young researchers' voices heard for gender equality. It's going on, and you could see the website at the end of the slide here. And this is an ongoing project, European project. I'm a member of it, a number of people are a member of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Colette. As we were expecting a very insightful presentation with a lot of data and very interesting to see the difference also among countries and how the progress is changing. So we will catch up with some questions later, but for now we will go on with the next speaker, who is Dr. Helen Marsh from the Daphne Jackson Trust. I said in my previous webinar that I am a former Daphne Jackson Fellowship, as a Daphne Jackson Fellow. So this Helen was actually my advisor for a period. So this is very dear to me, and I'm really honored to have you, Helen, today. So Helen was appointed trust manager in 2018 after previously working at the trust as a fellowship advisor, as I said. She was one of mine. She works closely with Katy Perry and her team to manage the processes relating to the award of new and existing fellowship sponsorship arrangements. Helen has a strong background in research. She's had positions at the Imperial College of London, the Health Protection Agency, and the Pirbright Institute. She has a degree in molecular and cellular biochemistry from the University of Oxford and holds a in infectious diseases at the Wetherell Institute of Molecular Medicine, also from the University of Oxford. So the Daphne Jackson Trust offers help to researchers returning to their career after a break. And this is not trivial. So Helen will talk about that. Thank you, Helen.
That's great. Thank you very much, Jenny. I assume everybody can hear and see me. I'm slightly paranoid about tech in these worlds. So I'm just going to hopefully share my slides. Hang on a second. So can everybody see that? Can I just have a thumbs up and nods and smiles? So lovely, excellent, thank you. It's a realization I'm used to doing kind of Zooms for children's work in lockdown. It's a bit weird to be doing it to an adult audience. So yeah, I apologize now if I start patronizing you. So yes, so thank you very much, Jenny, for your very kind introduction. Thank you. And sort of as Jenny said, that she was a former fellow at the Daphne Jackson Trust, and I'm absolutely delighted that she's invited us to speak at this event today. So thank you very much, Jenny. So what I'm going to talk about today is sort of obviously just give a bit of background about the Daphne Jackson Fellowships, because I'm aware not everybody on this Zoom call will have heard about them, but as well, we've recently done a piece of work, an impact report, just sort of showing what our fellows have gone on to do next. So Jenny, probably you did fill in that survey for us, and I'm very excited to show the results from that. So right, I'm hoping, yes, there we go, excellent. So just to sort of give a bit of background about the Daphne Jackson Trust, who are we? So as Jenny said, what we offer is fellowships for returners. So I'm just trying to get my screen here. So yeah, so it's the Daphne Jackson Trust. So we're the leading organisation dedicating to realise the potential of returners following a career break of 2 years or more, taking for a family, health or caring reason. And again, just relating it back to Colette's talk, I think sort of, I love those scissor diagrams that you showed, Colette. They were fantastic. And what we hope, what our fellowships offer is just bringing, I kind of saw it as a zip, is kind of drawing that zip together again. So why do people drop out at that stage in their career? And often it is to have a family. But also I think sort of something that isn't mentioned is also caring reasons. And I think it's getting more and more pertinent, certainly within the UK, that people are having to take on tertiary caring responsibilities. So having to look after their elderly parents. And it's something in the UK that we call the sandwich generation, where you're looking after small children and you're also looking after elderly relatives. And it's sort of something that very much came out in the lockdown, is that most of the caring responsibilities fall on females rather than males. And again, it just adds to the burden of work that we're expected to do. So again, so these fellowships are offered for people who've had to take a career break for family, caring or health reasons. So people do experience ill health, both physical and mental, and we acknowledge that and try and get people back when life happens, basically. So what are these fellowships? So they're part-time fellowships. So the idea is it's a gradual return to work, having not worked at all. So usually it's at 0.5 FTE, and then the fellowships themselves are either for 2 years or for 3 years, and are predominantly becoming more 3 years rather than 2 at the moment. And the fellowship itself, it's a retraining fellowship. And again, it's just that flexibility. They're very much bespoke for the individual. What retraining does that person need to get over their career break, to get the position that they would like to have? And again, what we think the success of our fellowships is that the moment somebody applies, so as Jenny said, I was her fellowship advisor, the moment you have an eligibility check, writing up the proposal, going through the interview, the peer review process, and then the fellowship itself, the fellowship advisor comes alongside the applicant. And it's kind of a two-stage thing, that it's, often it's the well done, you can do this, but it's also the accountability. Have you phoned that person? Have you written that email? Have you written your research proposal? And just giving that person the bit of the nudge to keep them motivated and to keep them going. And so, as I said, yeah, so we feel that's the reason for our success. And then people we work with, it's predominantly universities, research councils, so the main sort of research funding bodies within the UK, but also there's a lot of medical charities within the UK and learned societies such as the Royal Society of Chemistry and the Royal Society itself, and they offer sponsorship for the fellowships. Okay, so moving on to the next slide. And so have you... Hang on, I don't think that's changed here. There we go, excellent. So who was Daphne Jackson? So she was actually a very visionary lady that I think sort of in the 70s, 80s, she herself didn't have a family, but she saw her friends and sort of colleagues go off, have a family. They reached the stage where, okay, I'd like to come back to work again, and they couldn't, and they were taking lesser jobs just to do something to stimulate them. And she just thought this was a ridiculous waste of talent, and set up the fellowships to enable people to come back after having a family. So again, that's just a picture of her there. Yeah, so she established, so the actual charity was established in 1992 to continue her work, to sort of, you know, rather than just 1 or 2 fellowships, to make it slightly more permanent. As I said, the fellowships themselves are hosted at universities, research institutes. So we've also had a couple of companies such as Rolls-Royce and Pfizer support the fellowships. And again, it's very bespoke. So they're sponsored by organisations with an interest in the research being undertaken. So for example, with the medical charities, we have links with Kidney Research UK. So there we look for somebody who'd like to research into kidney disease. And then more recently in 2020, we expanded our remit to include arts, humanities and social sciences. So predominantly it was STEM to begin with, whereas now we've kind of gone to the full range of researchers. And this has actually been a huge learning curve for us, that sort of just to what does research in the arts look like? And it's actually been very interesting. And then something we're in the process of trying to set up at the moment is something called a technology fellowship. And the fellowships themselves, they're usually a research project in an academic institute. But something we're trying to do now is reskilling people in a more industrial context. There's a real skills shortage within the UK at the moment. So it's trying to get career returners coming back and just, you know, what are the skills that employers need, get that returner and bring them into the workplace. So it's far more geared towards actual retraining rather than research itself. And it's something that we're really keen to develop and move forward with. Okay, so who are our Daphne Jackson Fellows? So far, it's 437 fellowships. I think that number has actually increased now. We're heading more towards sort of 450. And yes, 91 organisations within the UK have hosted a fellow. So again, well, something we're quite proud of. There's something in the UK called the Golden Triangle, which is Oxford, Cambridge and London. But we embrace all research institutes within the UK. So sort of the Oxford and Cambridge, also the 3 to, you know, people up in Aberdeen in the north of Scotland. We've got fellows there at the moment. We've got 125 sponsors to date. As I said, the UKRI, the main funding body within the UK, is our predominant sponsor, but we also have a lot of support from the Royal Society of Chemistry and the Royal Society itself and other learned societies and charities. So British Heart Foundation is another one, but also we're beginning to sort of see more industrial sponsorship coming through. And again, the universities themselves are strong sponsors. Okay, so the actual application process. So as Jenny will attest, this takes about 9 to 12 months. And people often say, why is it so long? But I think what people don't realise is that the retraining starts from the moment the person fills out those forms. It's that kind of commitment, I want my career to start again. Again, the eligibility check is a phone interview. That'll often be the first phone interview people have had for sort of 2 to 5 years. Then can they actually write the research proposal? Can they go to an interview itself? Then undergoing the peer review process, etc. So the person, when they first applied for a fellowship, is very different from the person who's about to start the fellowship. And again, it's just building up those skills so that when they actually start the fellowship, they're ready to go and they know exactly what they want to achieve during the sort of the fellowship itself. And as I said before, it's the fellowship advisor, that individual who come alongside them, that sort of, you know, supports them at each stage and helps the person to keep going. So who are our returners? So they are very, very diverse. There's no such thing as a typical returner. But sort of our main criteria is that they have to have a PhD or a minimum of 3 years research experience with equivalent research outputs. As I said before, one of our main things, they have to have left research for a family, caring or health reason. It can't just be, I got fed up with it, I tried something else, it didn't work, I'd like to go back again. There has to be that life event that occurred that stopped that person from continuing their research career. The research break itself needs to be a minimum of 2 years. And again, it's probably quite pertinent as to what somebody needs. You either need to be resident in the UK with the right to work in the UK. And we're getting a bit of pushback against that at the moment, but it's sort of, I think it ultimately comes back to capacity. That the moment we say you don't need to be resident in the UK, we're opening ourselves to global applications. And as a small charity, we just do not have the resources to handle that number of applications. So it's a bit of a firm gate, but it's something that we do have to hold on to at the moment. Okay, so that's sort of the background to the Daphne Jackson Fellowships themselves. And then what I'd sort of like to talk about now a bit more is the impact report that we've just published. And so when we sort of go out there to find sponsorship for these fellowships, we're often asked, well, what do your fellows go on to do? What is a successful fellow? What is the actual impact of these fellowships? Why should I put money towards this? What's in it for me? And we've always just, done the lovely stories. Well, all these people, they've returned to work. It's been amazing. And it's like, yeah, we need a bit more data than that, please. So we took all this feedback on board. And what we've done recently, so we published it last month, is we've produced an impact report of where do our fellows actually go on to next. And we've actually had some really interesting data come out of this. So I hope, Jenny, you did complete the survey and participated in this. So as I said before, this was our first report to demonstrate the impact of our actual fellowships. And we gathered data from an extensive survey of former Daphne Jackson Fellows. We initially wanted to do it in spring of 2020, but obviously the pandemic pushed that back. And we felt we would probably get quite negative results if we sent it out then. So we deferred it for a year and sent all the requests for the survey in spring 2020. And again, the actual report, it's a mixture of data. So, where are our fellows now, but also case studies. That what we find that people, they like the mix, they like the actual data and the figures, but it's the case studies, the actual individual stories that really sell our fellowships, that really show the impact and just how much it can change people's lives. And I'm sort of saying, building on that, the impact for us is much broader. Yes, it is about the skills retraining, the research outputs, but it's also the personal impacts, that how much does it sort of help a person's story, rebuild that individual and enable them to sort of just get back into the workplace and rediscover who they are. So what do we find from this report? So as we already know, Daphne Jackson Fellowships relaunched successful long-term research careers for those who've had a career break. I think that was sort of a bit of a given. But as I said, the fellowships themselves, they provide the returners with confidence and experience that makes them employable, ideally in their first choice careers. So again, it's getting that person who's stuck at home, wanting to go back, rebuilding their confidence and putting them back in the workplace. And again, we were really delighted just to sort of see the successful career progressions that the fellows have done and just the variety of contributions. It's not just only in research, but people have gone on to do quite a wide variety of different things. And then again, the fellowships themselves bring huge benefits to host institutes. So there's been some significant research findings and just contributions to the wider research environment. So it's not just only in academia, but research support, etc., that people contribute to. And then the sponsors themselves, they will develop a professional who undertakes high quality peer-reviewed research with a breadth of impact. And also one thing that, we kind of went back on the figures, that the amount of money that is put into sort of sponsoring a fellowship, that we find that nearly 2 times that original fellowship money comes back, whether sort of through grants or sort of fellowships themselves, that Daphne Jackson Fellows, they really input back to the research environment far more than was initially put back into their initial research fellowship. So just to give a bit more detail about the survey itself. So it's a quinquennial survey, which basically means once every 5 years, to track career progression and impacts. There were 35 questions. It was quite a chunky thing. It took quite a while for people to fill out, but we like to think our fellows, so as Jenny, that former fellows, there is that kind of investment that they realise we've invested in them, so they will sort of give back. And the questions were targeted sort of pre, during and post fellowship. So how did you feel before your fellowship, during the fellowship and afterwards? And then even though the fellowship scheme was founded in 1992, we targeted fellows that had finished sort of in 2000 onwards, just that these were the people sort of at the heart of their career. And of these fellows, there were 263 that we were targeting. So who responded? We actually got a 91% response rate, which I think just sort of shows our cohort of fellows and how dedicated they are to the trust. 182 people actually returned the survey. And then just looking at data that we had within the trust and sort of going to the web, we managed to find data on a further 58 people, which increased the total up to 240, giving that percentage of 91. So it's a great response rate, which we were absolutely thrilled by. So what did the data show? So as we know, we support fellows across the UK. We have a large variety of different sponsors. But something we're always asked is, well, who are your fellows? What stage do they come in at? And again, you often think it's going to be the people with the postdocs, but that isn't necessarily the case, that it's, there's quite an even spread from people who've just finished their PhD, 1 to 3 years after the PhD, up to 6 years post-PhD. But also we are getting people, we do have 1 or 2 lecturers that come through, or people who've reached quite a senior level in their career. And often at that stage, it may be ill health that's affected them, or the tertiary caring reasons, having to look after elderly parents, that has caused them to sort of fall away from their research career. And so, yeah, so that's kind of reflected there, that most people, and again, it's going back to Colette's scissor diagram, most people will have a career break at their postdoctoral research stage, and that's when most people are considering to have a family. But as I said before, that, you know, people still have career breaks further on in their career, and it would be absolutely shocking to lose that talent. So why, you know, what were the spread of career breaks? So we're still seeing the vast majority are for family reasons. So it's when people go off and have children and want to have a break at that stage in their career. Caring responsibilities was actually quite large at 21%. So again, it's having to look after the older generation, but also health reasons are coming through. And again, it's sort of approximately between 1 in 5 and 1 in 10 will have a career break due to ill health. And then the actual spread of career breaks. So the average, you know, mathematically is 7 years. But we do, you know, some people will come straight back after the 2 years, but we also have seen career breaks up to sort of 17, 18 and 19 years. So it is never too late to come back, in essence. So what were the outputs, outcomes and impacts? There's a lovely pie chart here, which I'm not going to go to in great depth. All of this data is actually within our impact reports, which I've put on the Google Drive for those who have access to it. And again, it's on our website. But as I said before, fellows publish on average 1.65 papers during their fellowship. And again, a lovely figure of 7.35 papers afterwards. So these people are very much research active and producing research outputs. They'll give 6 conference presentations on average. And then this is the great figure that they will generate £23 million of new funding. So in total, our Daphne Jackson Fellows have very much contributed to the research environment and brought that money in, which very much outweighs the cost of their actual sponsorship of their fellowship. And then sort of, you know, that's the hardcore data, but what were the personal impacts? So I think we asked people to give 3 words about what did their fellowship mean to them. And again, there's just some lovely words coming through. So the main one is confidence. And that's a theme that we see throughout our fellows, that, you know, who would take me seriously, who would listen to my ideas, but the fellowship brings that confidence back and, right, I am the person I was before my career break, or often a more mature, more sensible version of that. But also things like grateful, proud, return. And again, the other one I quite like is work-life balance, that when you're having to do those things, when you've got the responsibilities at home, but you've also got your work, it's having to put those boundaries in, know, you know, what time you're going to give when, so you're fully present at that point. And again, I think sort of it's getting more and more, you know, in today's world, flexible working, and as well non-linear careers, that it's not necessarily PhD, postdoc, group head, but there's a whole variety of ways that you can get to the stage that you're at within your career. Okay, so again, another slightly busy slide, but skills and training. So these are just all the different things that people have reported. So it's the kind of the figures behind all of those different words. And as I've said before, you know, if you want to look at this in more detail, it's in the impact report itself. And then, so where are people after the fellowship? So we're absolutely delighted that 9 out of 10 do stay in research after their fellowship, and then quite a few people go into teaching, so sort of usually at higher education institutes. And those people do stay within research sort of 1 to 2 years, 3 years, 5 years post-fellowship. There is a slight decline, but I think sort of most people do stay within that, but then sort of other careers take over. So whether research support positions, whether helping out in a research support office or taking on a role within a charity, etc. But it's just, for us, success is very much who was the person before their career break, and has there been a step change during the fellowship? And then again, so this is just sort of shows the different places that people work, so whether at universities, research institutes, industry, NGOs, etc. And again, the vast majority do stay within the universities where they initially worked, but obviously they then branch out into other areas. And again, sort of what's interesting is that over half are on fixed term contracts and 44% are on permanent contracts. And again, it's that balance that if you stay within research, it's kind of fixed term contract after fixed term contract. It's very hard to get that permanent contract. But often people, they want the financial security for their family, or job security. And that's when people may step away from research and sort of say, actually, this isn't for me. Job security is more important. And I said, sort of 39% still work part-time and 56% work full-time. And again, I think it's sort of what we're hoping with that. Again, it's just pushing the flexible hybrid working, and certainly within the UK, that's still very much being worked out, that what does the new working life look like? And I think that's one of the good things to come from the pandemic, that it's suddenly acceptable to work from home. It's acceptable to sort of take an hour off at school pick-up time, as long as the work is done. And most sensible employers realise that you're going to have a much happier workforce if you encourage flexible hybrid working. So as I said, this is kind of the data, but it's also the stories behind the fellowship. And within the report, there's sort of several case studies coming through. And this is just what I want to highlight here. So this is one of our fellows who's gone on to become a professor. So again, hopefully drawing that scissor diagram closer together again. And it's just, there's a lovely quote here from Danny, but she's sort of saying that, you know, it brought back who I was. And she said there was a point in her 50th birthday party that her daughter turned to her and said, you know, I'm so proud of you, Mum, you've been such an amazing role model. And her daughter had that realization of just the barriers her mum had to overcome to be a mother, but also to be a professor and follow her desire of research. And sort of she showed her daughter that the two are possible. You don't have to choose between the two, that it can happen. And again, the impact report, there are lovely case studies just sort of with similar stories like this. So, and again, this is just a summary of what we found, but I won't go through it again, but it's very much, we were delighted to see that the impact report, it just produced the data of what we already knew, that our fellows are very successful. They go on to have great careers and, you know, they're an absolute asset to sort of the economy and the research environment as a whole. So just, yeah, I think just about on time. So just a huge thank you for listening to me, and just there's my email address if anybody wants to hear more. And please do look at our website and have a look at the report itself. And again, if you want to tweet or anything, please do. So just thank you very much, and I'll take questions at some point. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Helen. It was lovely to see your presentation, and I was even getting a bit emotional at the impact. Yes, so as you said, we will continue with the questions later. So let's continue now. So I can't share my screen because you're still...
Sorry, that's me. That's my bad.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, let's continue now with our next speaker, Betty Rooney. We are honored to have you here. She's a member of Gender Equality Committee of the National Technical University of Athens. She's board member of Greek Women's Engineering Association, and today she will talk about Greece and the achievements from grassroots and where is the horizon. Thank you, Betty.
Hi to you all. Thank you for the invitation. Now I'll share my screen. Please tell me if you can see it, all of you. Is it okay?
Yes, lovely. Thank you.
Okay. So just to start. So this is the title. So really, I start from the roots, and we will see what will have we done, what we can done to change some things here in Greece. Let me first introduce Greek Women's Engineering Association, EDEM, which was established in 1995. The members are women engineers, members of the Technical Chamber of Greece. Now women engineers are about 25,000. And we will see the statistics in the following slides. Here are the aims of EDEM. I will pass some slides very quickly, and you will have for reference if you need. So here we can see the situation in Greece concerning STEM education. So we have here the percentages of male and female students in physics, in chemistry, mathematics, communication, internet, informatics and communication, telecommunication technology, and engineering. We can see that the percentages of female students are quite high as far as no other European countries, especially in subjects that are very women prefer, like chemistry, also mathematics, and about engineering is quite a high percentage, because here in Greece engineering includes also architecture, which traditionally have high female students. As we can see, girls covers a very high percentage in the higher education of Greece. Here are, I think, some statistics that are quite, perhaps quite interesting for you, are the percentage of engineering students in some European countries, like Austria, France, Germany, UK, and Slovakia. Greece, we can see here that holds a high percentage of engineering students, comparable
Betty?
with yes.
Do the slides proceed?
Yes.
No, as I can see, only the first slide.
Sorry. Let me see what is happening. I'll start the sharing again. Just a minute. Perhaps I pose some. Can you see it now?
We can't see the sharing. No.
Okay, so. Now it's better.
Yes, but you would have to click on the from beginning.
Yes.
And then click through.
Okay, and a bit quicker. So this is about EDEM. I think you have already listened to some details. Established in 1995, and the women engineers in Greece are about 25,000. Okay, now they're going.
No, it's not proceeding.
Okay, so here are the percentage of female students in secondary education. We can see here, in universities, in tertiary education, depending on different studies, physics, chemistry, mathematics, ICT, and engineering. I have to mention that in engineering in Greece, we include also architecture schools, where traditionally women are the majority, like 60%. Here are the percentages of engineering students in Greece, and also in other European countries like Austria, France, and Germany, Slovakia, and United Kingdom. Here we can see that the engineering students, like as a percentage, is comparable with other countries which are more industrialized than Greece. And always there are discussions that we have a high percentage of engineers, more than we can employ here in Greece. On the other hand, we can see that Greece is not an advanced industrial country. So I don't know, without this number of engineers, what will be the status of Greece in industry. Here we have the statistics about the evolution of the percentage of women in engineering. Here are the women the women of the Technical Chamber of Greece. And we can see that from the first, for the first ones in the 60s, where they were only 1 to 5 women. Now we have a very good percentage, about 40%. Also, we have to mention here that it is quite high, but includes also architects, which have a high percentage of women. Here we can see that this is the percentage of women in different faculties, in different disciplines of engineering. In architecture, in civil engineering and chemical engineers are quite half of the students. In electrical and computer engineers are about 35%, and in mechanical engineers, which is also my discipline, my faculty, it's far more or less about 20%, and this is quite stable, meaning that there's no progress of this percentage among the last 30 or 20 years where I know. Also in Greece, we have a very low percentage in councils, committees, scientific committees, board of institution. Also, as you well know, in government, local authorities, and also in the private sector, in business and higher administration. There are few prizes by women in STEM. There are some very famous architecture offices and companies, which they are holding by a couple of architectures, women and women architecture and man architecture, and all of these are, let's say, on the name of the man. He is the most famous from this architect office. There's also, as I have heard also from other speakers, few women in academia. Although there's equal presentation in a lower research position. I'll present you later on some tables, statistics about this. I think that we all agree that women, including migrant and refugee women, have all the rights and to find the jobs they like, and study what they prefer. And this is could be good also for them, for their personal development, but also for the social development, and it's a way to accelerate the innovation in the countries. Here there are some statistics about Greek education. Only some of, I'll present you only the most important of them about STEM. So is it okay? But I saw that the presentation.
Betty? Yes, I just noticed that your slides didn't move. So move me to the right slide.
They didn't move.
No, they didn't move. So tell me which slide you are on.
I am on the previous one.
This?
No, the following one. The following.
But
next one. Okay, this is what happens on next one. Okay, then the next one, this with the statistics. Okay, so 70% of the people of the have finished their tertiary education have studied STEM, and this gives them an advantage in the employability. So their employment rate is about 70%, which is quite high here in Greece. Also, now I want to please, Sylvia, you can move one or two slides because there are some statistics for
This
you
one?
to know.
Oh,
And
okay.
then the previous, just one, the previous one. Okay, and here I want to just to mention to the fact that in the previous years during the economic crisis in Greece, I think you all have heard about this, about 500,000 of people have moved from the country, and these are young professionals, very well educated and qualified. So what we can do, and what we have do here in Greece to promote STEM among women and etc. in young, in general, young people. So please, Sylvia, now you can move to the next one. Here I have some slides about the project that EDEM have implemented the previous 20 years in order to show you that EDEM was on one of the association, and I don't want to say the only association that has implement some initiatives about STEM and women, and especially all these projects, they are focused on women engineers. Most important is the one titled Women's, where there's a very large research with the questionnaires for the which are the which are the causes that which make the students, the female students, to choose engineering over other sciences. Some of these results were presented in the publication here in 2009 in Düsseldorf, where EDEM was invited. I mentioned some of these preferences is that female students want some additional subjects to be added in engineering subjects, like biomedical technology, like environmental issues, and also soft skills, languages, etc. Now we can move to next project. Here we continue in EDEM to have some additional projects. We have implement two nice initiatives. Also, Sylvia, could you move on? A very good one was the founding by General Secretariat, and was characterized the only innovative project of the women associations. It was about combining gender and protection of the environment, and groups of women engineers visited schools, high schools, to present positive engineering solutions for the environment, because as you also know. Engineer here in Greece is a bit like enemy of the environment. I don't know if in your countries it's also like this. Another good practice for INWES was that turned to more scientific subjects, because the gender subjects have a very limited audience, and so we started to organize conferences in current engineered subjects, energy in the environment, and organize seminars about occupational health and safety, biomass, bioclimatic architecture, using our, let's say, women experts in this subject. Now I have to say you a bit, some details of the current situation in Greece. I didn't have other things to present about STEM of other organizations, not that I don't want to advertise them, but fortunately we were the only one. In 2019, there was a national law for the gender equality committees in each university. It takes about 4 years to have these committees in all universities, and because the authorities of the university were not quite friendly or familiar with this idea. The motivation to implement this was that it was a prerequisite for the Horizon application, and so this way it was a very strong push this last months. There is also a women association for in academia, LEGIP. You can see here their website. They make some progress, a lot of projects about. They make a lot of projects about promoting women in academia, but not especially in STEM. Here, I would like Silvia to go a bit earlier to show you some statistics. You have, okay.
Just Betty, please, 2 minutes. We have to look at the time schedule. Thank you.
Okay, so I have 2 minutes, or no?
Try to shorten the conclusions, please. Just
okay, okay. So you continue to move the okay, here's this the only initiatives and the networks I have I'm aware of. There's Greek women in STEM. These are very new ones, and also the following, the last ones. You can go. And also there's a Greek chapter of women in computers, and very last days in May 2022 there was an initiative, a governmental initiative about women in tech from the research and technology infrastructure. So this is what I have in previously slides, or I'll upload you a new one version of the of this presentation. There are tables with statistics of the women in academia, depending on their status, professor, lecturers, etc., and administration positions like directors and this one. I hope perhaps this will help you in your project. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Betty. Lots of resources shared there that we can also add to our page. So very nice. We had a slight problem at the beginning with the slides, but as we said, we will share them and we will put them in the resources page. So they are available to everyone. Thank you. Thank you so much for your contribution. And we shall continue now with our special guests, our Ukrainian panel. So, of course, we all know what's going on there, and these very strong and determined girls just decided to participate and share the challenges they are undergoing at the moment. So we will have a panel of 5 ladies. So we will start with Tatiana Shkoda. Sorry if I don't pronounce your names correctly, but so she's a professor at Kiev National Economic University. Sorry, because I can't see. Yeah, and she's project manager of the Young Scientists Project, realization of potential of young scientists in integration of science, education, and business. And she will talk about comparative analysis of women, young scientists' activity in STEM and non-STEM sectors of Ukrainian science in pre-war. I will continue presenting you also, then I know you've done a single presentation, so then you can go on with your slide and everything. So the second speaker will be Natalia Arashchenko, President of the Club of Economists and Go Ukraine and Kiev, coordinator for Working Group 3, Economic Cooperation, Free Trade Area, Cross-Border Cooperation of the EU-Ukraine Civil Society Platform, an associate professor at NEU named after Hetman, PhD. Then we will have Lydia Hladchenko, who is a key expert of the Club of Economists and Go in Ukraine, Kiev, associate professor of the Kiev National Economic University. And she will talk about STEM female Ukrainian researchers in the time of war. After we will have Alexandra Yeremenko, a professor at the Kharkiv National University of Radio Electronics. She will talk about Kharkiv Information and Communication Technologies, ACMW chapter, STEM Women Unity, Support and Volunteering During Wartime. And the last speaker will be Daria Kucherets, who's director of the University of AI and Digitalization, doctor and professor. She will talk about Women's STEM Army, the possibility to ensure the continuous development of STEM laboratories in Ukraine during the war. So we are very, very pleased to have you here, and the floor is yours now. Thank you.
Okay, can we start?
Yes.
Okay. As my presentation is the first, dear colleagues, nice to meet you here in such a turbulent time for our country. And my presentation is, Jenny has already told, my name is Tatiana Shkoda, and my presentation is about women, young scientists, comparison of STEM and non-STEM sectors of Ukrainian scientists, but in pre-war, what the situation was before the war. And currently, I'm also the head of the project manager of this project realization potential of young scientists, integration of science, education, and business. And this project was the best project in the competition of Young Scientists Council of Ukraine in 2020. And we have provided conduct the methodological survey to study the situation within with the realization of potential young scientists. And in this, if we tried to consider deeper, so it was possible to see the situation separately in STEM and non-STEM sectors. So today I will share these results with you. Next slide, please. So here you may see the basic division of our respondents as was it total number of young scientists in Ukraine in pre-war was about 11,500 according to the National Statistic Office of Ukraine. And this number of respondents were, in our case, 579. We used Google format to gather data, and you may see that the majority of our participants of our survey were young scientists who have a PhD degree, and only 9%, 9.7% is about doctor of science, and about 39% is young scientists without a scientific title, scientific degree. So here's this this non-STEM and STEM division of participants of our research. And again, according to the field of their scientific interests, you may see that, for example, PhD holders are those who have participated in our research in the majority as for STEM sector, it's stable about 56% in average for STEM sector PhD holders participated in our research, and for non-STEM sector is a little bit different because it's for social sciences it's about 55%, and for humanities it's a little bit it's smaller. Other participants, there is doctor of science, young scientists, and young scientists without scientific degree are not so well represented. So next slide, please. We also asked a few questions for our respondents about their financial situation, as for young scientists is always urgent question. And you may see that majority of them do not consider themselves as a breadwinner in the family, in their families, and especially it's typical for natural scientists in STEM sector. It's about more than 50%, as you may see. And the most successful in this case are representatives of STEM sector, but from formal scientists such as mathematics, logics, etc. They have at least about 38% those who consider themselves as a breadwinner in the family. So it's little bit different results from the whole from both non-STEM and STEM sector. The next slide, please. Well, we have also tried to, for this presentation, to highlight the main problematic issues, especially for STEM sector, for young scientist women. And as I have mentioned, that majority of them do not consider them as a breadwinner in their family. But this is an action. The main reason is, for our point of view, is by financial support. As you may see that only 2% of young scientists, women of STEM sectors, they have income over 9,000 hryvnias. It's before the war, the data of 2020. So it's about 600 euros for understanding. And the problematic issue is also the knowledge of foreign language. Is in average is on one foreign language, and you may see that 21% for 21% of the respondents is the reason for non-applying for foreign grants. It was the situation before the war. And again, only 15% of young scientist women in STEM have contacts with their foreign colleagues, now they work with these foreign colleagues. And also, the problematic point for continuation of the scientific researches for young scientists was that the only 4% of young scientist women in STEM were going to working trips abroad. And only 15% of them believe that in STEM sector, they believe that scientific mobility has the strongest impact on the efficiency of their work. Thank you. Next slide, please. Okay. Also, among the problematic issues, we can highlight the low status of young scientists. And this is typical for the whole research, not only for women, for young scientists in STEM, but also for young scientists in general, that they consider that they have low status in the society. And also the problematic was the bureaucratization of the grant application process. For 52.65%, as you may see, of respondents, they consider this is a problematic issue. And also the low level of cooperation with business and a low level of scientific publication in Scopus Web of Science, for example. And the common problem was lack of time and necessity of more support from management also. Thank you. Next slide, please. Okay, and but we also considered not only problems, but also some effective ways. Some questions were connected with those point which effective ways young scientists, women also consider in STEM sector and non-STEM sector consider as effective ways of promoting their own researches. And you may see that the most effective ways according to the research is participation in conferences and forums, and my presentation here also proves this result. As you may see that for non-STEM sector is the result is 73.15%, and for STEM sector is 76.25%. So it's really considered as a powerful tool. But the next powerful tool is publication in journals also, and here a little bit different for STEM and non-STEM sector. We can see that STEM sector respondents, they consider it more powerful, more effective tool as at the level of 62.55%, and for non-STEM sector, it's considered as a little bit not so powerful, because only 57.4%. But the other tools, they are not so powerful. We also can admit social networks, because it's quite close to the previous two ones, as for non-STEM sector is 53.05%, and for STEM sector is 45.5%. But competition of scientific works and internet projects on scientific, social, and technical topics, they are quite visible, but not so powerful as the three previous, which I have already mentioned. Thank you. Next one, please. And about soft skills, as we have admitted in our research that soft skills are necessary for young scientist women, even to solve those problematic issues which have been mentioned before, as for example, grant problem application. For young scientists, so according to our research, the young scientist women in STEM and non-STEM sector both, they have defined as most developed such soft skills as communicability, teamwork, and creativity. But for STEM sector, teamwork is more developed, and for non-STEM sector is communicability and creativity, as you may see here. And next slide, please. In this case, as I have already mentioned in previous slides about problematic issues, as young scientists, women also need to improve such pressing issues as doing an effective cooperation with business and effective grant and project activities. So one of the possible ways to solve these problems, problem pressing issues, is to improve the level of soft skills of young scientists. And according to the more than 50% of young scientist women in non-STEM sector and 45% of STEM sector participants, they emphasize this need to develop their soft skills in professional activity. Next slide, please. And this is all. So thank you. We have highlighted in these research, as you may see, the problematic issues. The main advice is how to support young scientists, how to develop, and I should admit that with the beginning of the war, the situation dramatically changed, and even those who were not interested in, maybe who have not possessed foreign languages, according to our research, they tried to improve their skills and make more applications, more activity, started to be more active in this way. So thank you for your attention, and please contact if you have more questions.
Thank you, Tatiana.
You're welcome.
The next one up.
I don't see Natalia, so I'll try to start our presentation. Perhaps she can have some problems with internet. It's possible. So Natalia Harashenko and me, Lydia Hlachenko, will present the project UA Science Reload. This project aims to raise global community awareness of the threats for Ukrainian scholars and support those who are in need. On the next slide, please. This information, this survey was completed in spring, actually in April, and more than 2,000 scientists participated. We used the Lime survey platform, and questionnaire covered 38 questions that included general information and questions about personal needs, needs relevant to research activity. The next, please. We had a portrait of those who participated in this survey. Actually, most of them were women. 67% of our respondents were women. Age group actually was from 31 to 50 years, and most of them have children and even adult children. One more feature, very important, that almost 43% of respondents have relatives in need, and they need some special care, some people with disabilities, elderly relatives, and so on. The next one, to continue to present you this portrait, I have to say that we applied to university staff and researchers from special research institutions, but most of the respondents were from universities. 74% of scientists are not engaged in activities other than research and teaching. So all of them teach and make some research activity during all their work. During the wartime, almost 80% of all the respondents continued to receive their salary, but almost 84% of them said that their financial situation has deteriorated compared to the pre-war time. And the next slide, please, about location. We see that 47% of all who we asked have not changed their residence. But the other part, it seems to me it's almost 53% have changed their place of residence due to the war. And most of scientists in Ukraine are now, it was in April. Most of scientists in Ukraine were in Kyiv, Cherkasy, Lviv, Kharkiv, Vinnytsia regions. And those who stayed in Ukraine were in locations with no hostilities, and 7% of scientists were in areas of hostilities. And that was April. Now the situation has changed. Most Ukrainian scientists abroad are now in Germany and Poland. And the next slide, please. We asked respondents if it's possible to continue their work at the level of pre-war time. Almost 73% answered no. The main reasons for it are feelings of unsafety and danger, inability to be present at the workplace, in offices and labs, and problems with internet access and electricity, and of course, lack of interest and apathy. The next slide, please. This slide demonstrates participation in projects in pre-war time. 41% were engaged in them during the last 3 years. Among them, 28% were in the projects financed by the Ukrainian government. And one-third of participants stated that these projects were suspended or they had problems with implementation because of war. And the next one. Actually, the survey was focused on the needs of scientists. We divided these needs into two groups, personal needs and the needs concerning research activity. And what did we find? First, personal needs. There are three groups of researchers on this slide, all respondents, then female and female in STEM. All these groups identified the most important needs. As almost 53% of scientists changed their location, they need to reestablish or build new social contacts. And almost 84% said that their financial situation deteriorated, so they need financial support. And the next slide, please. There are results that demonstrate needs in research activity. All respondents seek for the projects to be engaged in right now or in the nearest future. And female scientists in STEM needs the access to the equipment and laboratories in comparison with other groups that don't have such necessity. And the last one slide, please, in our part of presentation. Your Science Reload project continues studying the needs of Ukrainian scientists. We're going to repeat survey in the nearest future in summer. and use the results in policy making by preparing recommendations for national and international organizations to support Ukrainian scientists. Thank you for attention and for the possibility to present our findings. And now I'd like to introduce Alexandra from Kharkiv. She'll continue this presentation.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Lydia.
Thank you so much, Tatiana and Lydia, for your great presentations and huge efforts for gathering all the statistics and analysis. So possibly I will represent exactly that scientists who are trying to continue the work. So my name is Alexandra Yeremenko. I'm a doctor of engineering sciences, professor of the Volodymyr Popovsky Department of Infocommunication Engineering at the Kharkiv National University of Radio Electronics. So unfortunately, due to the war conditions, my city Kharkiv is the area of hostilities, and my current location is Košice, Slovak Republic. However, and despite all of this, I continue my work in the university. I continue to teach, doing my research activities and participating in ongoing projects. Also, I'm a representative and a volunteer of different women support organizations such as IEEE, Women in Engineering Affinity Groups, Ukraine section, and ACMW, which is Association of Computer and Machinery Women branch. And also I had experience in anitabi.org volunteering, namely next year it was firstly in EMEA region, Grace Hopper celebration event. So also I participated there. So what about us? In 2020, we established our Kharkiv ICT ACMW chapter under the umbrella of ACMW Europe. And we did this exactly in the time of pandemic in order to support and advocate STEM women and to adapt to current conditions, actually. What pre-war outcomes did we have during our activities within our chapter? So, of course, it was a significant support during the isolation, and we tried to adapt to conditions of the pandemic. We tried to change our work style, but thanks to our European colleagues, we enlarged our networking and international collaboration. We participated in different conferences and really appreciate for Women Courage events, which is actually an annual event. And we participated this year third time. Two previous times we participated online because it was virtual due to pandemic. However, we have a big hope to meet our colleagues from Ireland, from Turkey, which we met during that challenging time that we thought it was challenge. Now we see that experience really helpful was for us. So we want to hope to see our colleagues this year on Cyprus. We also were volunteers in different online events, local offsite regional events, and we made some consulting events for STEM women and IT and ICT women. We involved human resources managers to help us to adapt and to overcome the career wars. What about now? What is current situation when we have war conditions, wartime? Current location of Kharkiv ICT ACMW chapter members. 64% of us still in Ukraine, but 36 it's all around the Europe actually. By the statistic gathered, some members located in Germany, Poland, Slovak Republic, Belgium, Czech Republic, and Bosnia and Herzegovina. So I'm very glad to see now within the participant my colleague. She's currently in Bosnia, and I hope that we will have collaboration in order to create some projects together about experience of our Bosnian colleagues in the after-war reconstruction. So I think it will be very helpful for us. So what about us also? As I said, we continue to teach, we continue to make research, and we continue to do our projects. So please, next slide. I wanted to make an impact on our very important wartime ongoing project, which is actually Erasmus Plus project Jean Monnet module, integrating the European Union cybersecurity framework and policies in Ukraine. So within this course, we teach academicians, PhD students and students in Ukraine interested in cybersecurity direction. And main aim of this project is highlighting the best practices of European Union regarding cybersecurity and how it's implemented exactly in Ukraine. So it's the big success for us that even now, during the war, we have running the two courses from this project, Spring-Summer 2022, and we have more than 60 participants all over Ukraine. So it's Kharkiv, Kiev, Khmelnytsky, Lviv, and other cities with representatives of universities where cybersecurity direction is developed actually. And also here I wanted to mention one of the best implementation from my point of view of European cybersecurity framework and, for example, NIS directive, Network and Information System cybersecurity. It's Ukrainian Center Computer Emergency Response Team of Ukraine. These guys are really heroes, and for example, they share a lot of information about the current situation, because we have war also in cyberspace. We have multiple attacks, and they mention all of them in their news on the website. You can see, so it's not only simple phishing or something like this, or information pushing to the Ukrainians in social media, but also it's a malware attacks and so very serious attacks to governmental sites and so on. So, but really, we have to be prepared to combat in absolutely any field that we can. It can be critical information infrastructures or cybersecurity, cyberspace, absolutely everything, because our war is multidimensional and we have to be prepared to be warriors, not also in many dimensions. So as I said, Ukrainian STEM women should consolidate their efforts and help each other and our motherland. So as engineers, we can organize the most vital workflows in Ukraine. So as I said, it's operation of critical information infrastructures. We can maintain and support operation of alerting systems of the population in case of danger, shelling and other critical situations. We can maintain and support reliability and continuity of essential communication services, counteracting cybersecurity threats. Information hygiene is absolutely vital thing now, and much more. So our communication and collaboration is really critical in conditions, in war conditions, and our assistance can become very important in crucial situations. Can you please show the next slide? So here I wanted to highlight also the example of our preparation to our report in Women Courage this year. It will be presented in September in Cyprus, when we want to discuss the ICT disruptive technologies. And this is really amazing situation of using the Starlink in Ukraine. So I can say that it's absolutely gorgeous. And development of Starlink is very, very useful to maintain the critical essential services. And it's, I can say that it's absolutely necessary and vital thing for Ukrainian armed forces. I want to conclude that we united for making this world better at one time. But now we are holding hands together with all of you to save the peace all over the world. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, Alexandra. Great presentation. We will move now to the last one. Thank you.
Thank you, dear colleagues. I'm Daria Kusherets. I'm doctor, professor, and I'm rector of the University of AI and Digitalization. Right now, I'm currently staying in United States, in Seattle. It's a high-tech capital in United States. Let's tell a few words about the University of AI and Digitalization. University is an educational institution that uses STEAM education to train future IT and AI innovators to create a strong and development country built on high technology. Before and after the war, please next slides. Yes, and one more. Yeah. The next one. Oh, perfect. Before the war, Ukrainian educational institutional annually produced 2,000 new IT specialists. But market needs were more than 35,000 per year. The Ukrainian labor market needs were 15,000 specialists per year. So post-war growth is expected to reach 40,000 per year. It's data from Ministry of Digital and Transformation of Ukraine. A university, just a second, AI applies STEM to multiple educational levels. So it's postgraduate education, university, college, and vocational and technical education. But right now, I want to talk about our experience on STEM lab of the university. University of AI and Digitalization, it's a new university which was established in the year 2020, in December 2020. Already in 2021, it was a STEM laboratory was open. And it was really hard working on our STEM lab. And just 1 day before the war, we was ordered 50 copies of the latest edutech innovation for AI, IoT, data science, and machine learning. So, and now I want to present you the latest robots, yeah, edutech robots. We on this edutech robots, we invested 2 years in the implementation of edu robots into educational programs. We evaluated more than 2,000 samples. We translated hundreds of pages of methodical recommendation into Ukrainian, localized software to Ukrainian, PACE certification to use Euro robots in educational program in September 2021. Trained for teacher, including 2 women. Integrated into educational program of all levels. Implemented in cross-disciplinary educational programs such as data science and digital management. Applied in various specialized such as law, economics, IT, and others. It was just before the war. We're talking just about these samples. But what happened really after the war? So the challenges of the STEM lab because of the Russia's attack. Of course, it's a lack of funds, restriction of access to equipment in laboratories. So we can order some others equipment right now because it's a restriction. A lot of new samples due to import logistics. The male population involved in the war and women are dispersed. A vision that can help. So what's gonna work? First, it's assistance in providing grant programs for Ukrainian university to found STEM lab. Actually, I'm not fully agree that the first problem is a languages problem. We don't have enough European programs. So we really have few programs, but other programs for Ukrainian scientists is closed and we don't have them on an open source. So that's why I really put assist in providing grant programs on first level. Next, conclude cooperation agreement between Ukrainian and foreign educational institution where teachers and students can have access to similar laboratories abroad. Because it's we still have education in distance, and all our samples and lab, we can use it. So it can be really helpful if we can teach European lab with Ukrainian teachers. Then it supports integration with the various international STEM association in multiple ways. And I really believe in such a cooperation and association because we can, on a different platform, we can realize together a really huge program together, and it's going to help to be integrated in this STEM scientist community. And what is also my vision and my proposition is to assist in creation of the international STEM competition for higher education level. I wanted to concentrate about this in my next slides, because we really have the force of experience, and University of Artificial Intelligence will become a visionary and uniter of academic scientific community. And I'm very happy today to start with our panel with Tatiana, because she's the winner of this concourse which we organized. And we really, it took to us 377 days to organize from idea to realization. And submitted application, it was 1,300 submission application. And what was interesting that we make 100 nominations and 100 winners. Usually we have like women in STEM in only it's only 3 winners, first, second, and third place. But what we created a competition, it was 100 winners, and it's really help for a Ukrainian young science community to find a very strong, interesting, and active scientist. So what was interesting, it's a database and statistics which we get after a realization of this competition. So imagine that more than 500 people visited and view a site only on 1 month, because we make a vote. So people was sharing and asking to vote for the participant, and that's become a very interesting to enter and to look what is this competition. Yeah, so we make science more socialized and interested to the non-scientist community, yes, and people. So the next one, statistics, is more than 3,000. It's a site visited from the unique IP address. It's how much person was visited actually our site, and it's 39 people that we can representative from multiple high level education organization provided different support. Yes, so it's a big community who was working science community on such a competition. So, and we united all region of Ukraine, and 3 different academic organizations have joined forces. And it was very important because all these academic organizations, it was really like separate, and it was the first time that they worked together. And what was also interesting that we have such a huge impact, but we didn't pay any advertisement cost, because the impact was because that all participants who take part on this competition, they asking and sharing this information. And all this huge community with institution, universities, college, and academic others organization support this competition. And my proposition is to create, and all this competition was created on the platform of Young Scientists Council of Ukraine. So that means that we can create a really good competition, STEM competition, in a platform of your association. And it's we know how to do marketing. People are very good organized. Our scientists is very good organized, and especially now a lot of Ukrainian scientists started work through the whole world. So we can make a good contacts and united scientists through all the world. So, and it was my proposition what we can do for for science community. So I want to tell that Ukrainian women at STEM are ready to cooperate at a high level. And it's really a women STEM army, which have possibility to ensure the continuous development of STEM of STEM in science. So thank you very much for my partners, for organizer, for such a good panel, and hope it was interesting and useful for everybody. Thank you very much. And it's in Seattle right now, 4 o'clock of the morning. So I try to put some energy, but I don't know how it's really work. So
thank you so much. Yes, it worked really well.
Yes, thank you.
So thank you. Very, very inspiring presentations. So time is strict now, so I propose. So first of all, I need to do an announcement here. So in terms of the project, we would like to ask the participants and the networks to provide a photo, because we want to do a montage of different people who participated. So the idea is to have an hashtag which is enhancing research culture. So we would be grateful if you could share a photo of you with what this project represents for you. For example, empowering, inclusivity, network, community. And if you could share this on social media, so we will find it through the hashtag. And then we will have a bigger montage at the end. So thank you for that. And I would like to thank all the speakers. We really appreciate your contribution. Without you, this webinar would have not been possible, and all the presentations were really insightful and inspiring. So I propose that I saw that in the chat there are a few comments. Some questions have been already answered. So I propose we stop the streaming now, and then we continue the discussion and questions if there are more. Okay, and thank you also to the organizers and to the IT support and Sylvia, Belen, and everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So we should stop the